a chunk of glass color. Like it was I don't know, an orb or something. It was just your attempt at blowing glass. So I did it, and this is what I did, and I put it on my desk, and I fiddle with it when I'm doing phone calls and Zoom meetings. So like, if you ever notice, like in the bottom of the screen, like my hand's always moving up and down because it's almost like a
So that's what you're fondling spinner all day.
Yeah.
You're fondling that when you're talking to me. How inappropriate.
Well, with this hand, not the other hand.
That's just what I do with my left hand.
Left hand.
Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required.
We're the podcast that recaps all the episodes of The Big Bang Theory. No spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot,
make yourself a grasshopper,
and enjoy the ride. Hello there, Ryan. Or should I say,
Hey, Rob.
Ryan. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Fantastic, because we just watched Season 3, Episode 17 of The Big Bang Theory, The Precious Fragmentation. For any new listeners out there, I'm Rob, and this is my co-host Ryan. We are Theoretical Nonsense, the podcast that recaps, reviews, and deep dives facts from The Big Bang Theory, which we call IQ points. As a reminder to everyone, I've seen the series multiple times, but this is Ryan's first time watching, so we do our best to do no spoilers. And Ryan has been told that he's very similar to Sheldon, so we keep a point tally of how close Ryan is to Sheldon.
And that point tally is at 89 points, not like Sheldon, and 94 like Sheldon.
All right. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Don't forget to email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. We love an email. And leave us a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So can't believe I blanked on that.
Whatever that is. The thing with the things.
The fruit thing that dominated the entire world. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. And a little bit of a shout out to our friend Jake, who we just talked about. We'll just give him a little shout out because he actually just talked to Ryan and he said that he loves listening to the podcast because it's like we're hanging out all over again. Jake, I
appreciate that, Jacob, and I look forward to seeing you sometime soon.
Yep. We technically did get a new email, but it is about an IQ point. So I think we'll save the email for later on in the episode when we get to that IQ point. What do you think?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what we were going to do with that, so I have it at the top of my notes, but I can talk about it when we get to the IQ point because it's later on in the episode.
Yeah, so. I got a little confused, I will say, because when she first reached out to us, I totally thought that she was asking for an IQ point request. I didn't realize that she was going to be doing the IQ point herself. So thank you.
She did the work for us.
Thank you, Michelle. For doing an IQ point for us. You. But I do have some additional details to add to it.
I had to look up some stuff, and so I'm just going to go over what I had to look up for it to make sense, a little bit more sense to me. Because it's not common ground for me. Yeah,
no, it's neither me. Otherwise, housekeeping, I do have a little bit of a true crime update.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, it's a little lackluster, but for any new listeners out there was a true crime incident that has happened to me back in March of 2023. It's quite a doozy, and if you haven't listened to it, I strongly suggest, if you like true crime, listen to our episode 22, which is season 2, episode 4, The Griffin Equivalency, and you could hear my entire story of what happened to me, but not really happened to me. I was just kind of next to it while it happened. But we're following the trial. And an update on the trial. I last mentioned that she had a call to the list and jury selection en route. But apparently that got canceled. Don't know why. It didn't say why it was canceled. But they pushed it and they're doing a status conference that will take place in August of 2024. So a few months, well, I guess a couple months. Next month.
Now. Next month, yeah.
That's right, we're in July.
At first, I was like, so next year? No, in a few months. No, next month.
No, wait a minute. Yeah, it is just kind of crazy, like how long she's been in jail for this entire time, and how
Mm-hmm.
slow the process really is. And she's just kind of just sitting there, and I feel really bad for her.
And wasn't her bail set like extremely high or something too?
At first, it was weird because at first I read that there was no bail set, but then after doing some research, it was set like 100,000.
Oh, that's not that bad. I mean, it's not good, but
Yeah.
it's not like $80 million or
Yeah.
something.
But not to go
$1 billion.
but not to go too spoiler into that, because you should definitely just check out that episode, because it is a very I'm not going to say fun because it wasn't fun, but it's a very unique
I'm like,
story.
entertaining? Is that the right word? Is that rude?
I think entertaining in the sense that like I live to tell the tale, I guess.
Yeah.
And well, not so much for her, but
I was gonna say some people did not. So
yeah. Well, it did get announced in the docket that the new jury selection has been rescheduled for September. So she's got some time to wait.
man, that having to just sit and do nothing and just wait sucks.
Yeah, there's like literally nothing that she can do until they actually decide to actually really take a look at her case, which is crazy that they just keep postponing it. It doesn't, in the docket, it doesn't say why. It just says that it's status canceled, new date, and that's really all it is.
Huh. It's weird because what the Sixth Amendment says that we have the right to like a swift and speedy trial.
Yeah.
So like I if you're going on like a year and a half, 2 years, I don't feel like that's that swift or speedy.
No,
So
yeah, I don't know what the deal is,
mm-hmm.
but we
Well, I
will
hope it
keep
all works
everyone
out.
up to date on that. So
Justice prevails.
let's hope so.
Yeah.
All right. Any other housekeeping? Any other news?
That's all on my end. I
Cool.
don't think I had much on my end.
All right.
So...
We could just dive into the episode. Should we? Oh, actually, one last thing. An apology to anybody that actually listened to our last episode, the Excelsior acquisition. I was doing some editing and I realized that Ryan and I did not utilize the mute button as often as we should. So there's a lot of clacking from the keyboard in it, and I just wanted to send our sincerest apologies on that.
My clacking wasn't a keyboard; it was a ghost. But
SOSing something.
Yeah, SOS. Ryan won't let me go.
I'm trapped in this hell abyss of Ryan's home.
Don't make me mute my mic, ghost.
Well, I do have a new mic stand, so hopefully it'll keep things a little bit quieter, but I will mute as often as I can. But on that note, shall we just dive into the episode? Should we just talk about overall thoughts?
Overall thoughts? I like this one. There was a lot of funny stuff. There's a lot of stuff I related to. And not a whole lot of points given on either side, really, because what I related to was like just the nerdum, the fandom of the episode and enjoying how they behave, because I could see me buying a box like this in the episode and being so excited. So yeah,
it's funny because a lot of cons actually do sell boxes like this, where it's like a mystery box. Like it's like a specific topic. Like when I went to the Chicago Comic-Con, there was a Nightmare Before Christmas box where it was like a mystery box. It was like $60, just so it was like very similar to the price that they had. And I was just like, well, you don't know what's in it. It could be something great. It could be something really terrible. So yeah, you want to buy it? And I was like, you know what? Let it ride. And I bought it, and I will say it was full of crap.
Oh,
quite disappointing. It was like some keychains and like belt buckle, I remember, and like some wristbands and shit like that. It was like not worth $60. So I got bamboozled on that one, but it was still fun.
Don. I remember one birthday I was driving by a random city and they had like a GameStop. What was it called before GameStop?
Funko Land.
Funko Land.
Was it Funko?
Was there another one like there was one called Funkoland. I think Funkoland, maybe it was Funkoland. I want to say like Videotech or something like that. I can't remember. Anyways, maybe it was GameStop, maybe it was Funkoland or something else. But they had a box underneath a table, and just a big sign on it said $5 each. And we pulled it out, and the guy's like, "Yeah, those are for sale if you want any." And I'm like, "This is so weird. Like, this doesn't seem legit."
Yeah.
And there were Nintendo games, and we got some good ones. We got Bubble Bobble for like $5. We got Contra for $5.
Bubble Bobble. That's where,
and
that's
I'm
where
like,
one of my tattoos comes from. So
nice. Oh yeah, the hamburger, right?
Yeah,
Is it...
yeah, I modeled that.
Yeah, I know it. That game is great. So sometimes I guess I didn't have to buy the whole box, but random mysterious boxes can be good.
Yeah, in my case it wasn't, but in your case it was. But yeah, I do love this episode. Even at the time, I mentioned this very beginning of our podcast of why I love this show so much, and it's because of the fandom. Because there weren't a lot of shows that talked about this stuff. You never really get Lord of the Rings references anywhere else. You don't really get Star Wars references or Star Trek references, maybe here and there. But this show was like so geared towards that audience this is one of the episodes that kind of is the reason why I like this show.
Mm-hmm.
And love Lord of the Rings. Who doesn't love Lord of the Rings? My wife. It's tough.
Oh,
it's tough.
And that's why she's not on the podcast.
Yeah, that's why I'm never inviting her as a guest. She doesn't even listen, so she'll never know.
She'll never even know.
It does hurt, though.
I'm crying on the inside.
Well, I will find my own precious. Well, all right, let's get started.
Okie dokie.
This is Season 3, Episode 17, The Precious Fragmentation. Aired March 8th, 2010. Written by Chuck Lorre, Bill Prady, and teleplay by Stephen Maloro. Directed back to Mark Sandrowski. We're opening now, and we're in the stairwell with the guys, and Leonard is carrying a very large box. And Leonard is pointing out that he's always the one carrying the heavy stuff. Sheldon says that in their ragtag band of scientists with nothing to lose, he's the smart one, Wolowitz is the funny one, Cuther Polly is the lovable foreigner who struggles to understand their ways and fails, and that leaves Leonard by default the muscle.
I didn't completely understand. Like, I can see his stereotyping Raj. I can see him just throwing Leonard on the bus, but I never thought Sheldon thought Howard was funny. That caught me kind of by surprise, even in a stereotypical way, or maybe he's just saying like, oh, he's supposed to be the funny one, but like it was interesting that he catered to the notion Howard considers himself the funny one.
That's a really good point. I feel like Sheldon is more or less environmentally aware that Howard does make more jokes than everybody else. So maybe that's why he's classifying him as the funny one. Not that he agrees with it.
Or likes the jokes. They're bad jokes, but he makes them nonetheless.
Maybe it's a by default thing again.
Yeah, I can see that. That makes more sense now.
Well, they enter their apartment, and Penny is already there, waiting for them to bring the food. But they have something better than Chinese food. They have a box full of junk.
I think I'd be pissed off if I was her. If somebody promised me food and came home with not food, I would be...
I am definitely the type of person that gets hangry. I get very angry. And if I'm promised something and I don't get it, especially in terms of food, I will be so angry.
She handled it well. She handled it better than I would have, so good for Penny.
Even him being kind of a shitty boyfriend in that moment, too. She handled it very well. Well, Leonard tells her that on their way to get the food, they thought that they saw Adam West, and they followed him to a garage sale. And Penny asks, Who's Adam West? And I love Sheldon's response. Who is Adam West? Leonard, what did the two of you talk about after the coitus? Very good question. Well, they bought the box of unidentified things for only $60. And she asked...
So I actually did a IQ point on who Adam West is. I think most people know, but I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into who is Adam West.
Who is Adam West?
Who is Adam West? Let's get behind this. Adam West. Adam West. So I actually know him mostly from... from Family Guy, where he sings about himself. Like, it's the main thing I know. Like, I know he was Batman, but
Adam Wee. Maybe my name is Adam Wee.
Adam West. So Adam West was born September 19th, 1928 in Walla Walla, Washington. His dad was a farmer. His mother was an opera singer and pianist. When he was 15, they got a divorce, and he moved to Seattle with his mom and kind of longed to be a movie star, but he went to, he graduated from Whitman College with a BA in literature and a minor in psychology. Then he was drafted into the Korean War for a little while, where he served as an announcer for the American Forces Network TV. He worked for a bit as a milkman after the military, and then moved to Hawaii to pursue a career in television. And it took a little while to get his career in television. I didn't realize Hawaii was a big place for television, but apparently that's what it was. He was married twice, 2 kids in each marriage. The first one was in 1957 to, and I'm sorry, I will mispronounce this, but Gato Korua Frisbee Dawson, according to Wikipedia. 2 kids with her, and they divorced in 1962, and then a second marriage in 1970 to Marcel Tagend Lear. 2 kids with her as well, and they actually remained married for 46 years until his death. And he did die on June 9th, 2017 in LA, California at 88 years old. He's mostly known for his the 1960s ABC version of Batman, and apparently there was a 1966 version of that show as well, a film version that I didn't know about. And again, he's had numerous parts, but he seemed to always really enjoy kind of parodying himself and having fun with who he is as a person, as a center of attention, I guess, a star. And so he parodied himself in Fairly Odd Parents. And like the other versions of himself, he plays himself, but kind of an unstable version of himself. And in Fairly Odd Parents, apparently he dresses up as Catman and like fights crime and stuff, but he's like completely lost a few screws and goes around doing strange things. In The Simpsons, he was in a couple episodes, but I knew him most from the Mr. Plow episode. And this is where he is at a Comic-Con, and Bart sees him, and Homer's introducing him, and Adam West says that, the new Batman's, back then it was like 1992, 93, so that was the Tim Burton Batmans, right?
Keaton.
Adam West says, I didn't need like fake muscles. All you saw, that solid Batman, was pure West. And then he asks, why doesn't Batman dance anymore? And falls into a dancing episode, in which case Homer picks up Bart and kind of drags him away, saying, we've got to go. And then Family Guy, he played the mayor of Quahog, Rhode Island, and he was in like 100 episodes or something from season 2 to 17. The first episode he was in was 15 Minutes of Shame, and the last episode was Coma Guy. Apparently the cartoon never mentions him as Batman, though. So Adam West in Family Guy is a completely, it's like his persona, or kind of wacky persona, but like a alternate reality version of what Adam West could have been, almost.
It's kind of shocking. I didn't realize that in his entire Family Guy history, they never mentioned Batman.
That's the way I understand. That's what I was reading in Wikipedia and some other websites. So interesting that, he was never called. Technically, he does die off screen after he passed. They have an episode where the high school gets renamed after him, Adam West High. And this is where I was saying, what I remember him most of all as is in season 4, episode 19. There's an episode called Brian Sings and Swings. And Adam West basically starts singing at a table by himself, and it's kind of to the song Edelweiss from Sound of Music, but he basically sings just the words Adam West over and over again as he dips behind his desk, or not table, not desk, and then once he's disappeared from camera, he goes, I'll come out when they're all gone. So I don't know why that sticks out in my memory so much, but I loved him in Family Guy. So a lot of things we could know him from. And if you watch cartoons, you'll probably see him pop up here and there. It was sad that he passed away. I guess 88 is pretty long life, but he was a great guy. And again, one of the first Batmans. So
yeah, I remember watching that 60s Batman all the time when I was a kid.
Really?
Like that was my entrance into Batman. Like before the animated series and everything like that, I watched that first. Yeah, I remember Cesar Romero as the Joker, and honestly, that Joker was fucking terrifying. Yeah, they had the Penguin, the Riddler, Catwoman. Yeah, that was to today's standards, it's probably not a great show, but back in the day, it was great.
And when you were a kid, right? It was fun.
Yeah, it was bringing the comics to real life. How they actually had like the sound effects and like the big pow and the bam and everything, just like how you would have it in the comics.
It kind of reminds me. It's a little bit off topic, but I just watched a movie called The Machine. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's about this guy. He's a comedian. I forget his name, but he has this bit where he talks about when he was in college and he goes to Russia, and like he starts hanging out with Russian gang members because technically in Russia they would hire gang members to kind of keep people safe, and so he started hanging out with the gang members that they had hired to keep him safe, and he was kind of a goofball, but they started liking drinking with him, so he kind of became popular, and like the skit ends with him having to rob a train with them. And his whole notion is like, I never planned on robbing a train. And when I was put in the position, I didn't really know what to do. And so I just kind of went along with things. But in this movie version, it's about him as a comedian telling the skit. And apparently he has stolen something on that train. He stole something really important. So Russian mob individuals come and take him back to Russia to like fix what he wronged back then. But Mark Hamill plays his dad. And at first I wasn't really clicking that it was Mark Hamill. And then he like laughed at one scene. I'm like, that's the Joker from the cartoon Batman.
Yep. Yep, that's right.
And Luke of course Skywalker, we know him
from Joker.
Yeah, Luke Skywalker as well. But that laugh was like, I know that. I know exactly what that is. That's all I got for Adam West.
All right. Well, they bought a box of unidentified things for only $60. And Penny asks if there's a new girlfriend in there, which, if there was, that'd be the best sale ever. Then he pulls out a draft of the Ghostbusters script. No, I'm sorry. It's the Ghostbusters 2 script. And do you have an IQ point on this?
I have an IQ point on this because this is very important to Ghostbusters history. And I don't know where to start, so I'm going to start just at the beginning. But if you know, the original Ghostbusters was released in 1984. The sequel came out in 1989. And the production was kind of not haunted, but it was... there were technical difficulties, right? And then after it was released... we went, how many years? 10, 20 years before there was anything that was officially Ghostbuster. And there were different reasons or rumors for this. I always hear that Bill Murray was kind of the one who was like, I don't really want to do Ghostbusters again, blah, blah, blah. But he came back for 2009 when Ghostbusters the video game came out for like Xbox 360 and I think PlayStation 3. And technically that video game was canon. If you ever play it, it goes Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, and then Ghostbusters the video game, and all the people actually came back and did their voices. So it actually has Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, so on, so on. And fantastic video game. It's a example that video games can be done correctly if made after a movie. Doesn't happen often, but that one is great. But then Afterlife came out a couple years ago, and now what is it, Frozen Empire? Is that what it's called? And those kind of rewrote canon, and now the video game's not canon anymore. And Bill Murray did come back, but I think it's because he's not a major character. He's kind of like a small cameo, more than a cameo, but like he's not a huge role. But anyways, it has taken a long time for them to reprise Ghostbusters. And again, there were many reasons, and there were many reasons it took 5 years to make this sequel. But what do we have? I have more about what happened with that. But the story goes, the script goes for Ghostbusters, the one that was released, is that the Ghostbusters come back like 5 years after the original, and they aren't really heroes anymore. They're doing birthday parties for money, and New York City is just kind of getting negative, and people are angry and cruel to each other, and there's a slime flowing underneath the city. Meanwhile, there's a painting of an evil character named Vigo the Carpathian, which apparently the actor who played him has like an interesting life story too. I read about it a long time ago. I don't remember a lot, but like if you want like an interesting bit of Hollywood biography, he's a really interesting character in real life. But this picture starts to come to life, and he wants to possess Dana's baby. And so the baby gets kidnapped, and basically there's some issues with the cops. The Ghostbusters go into the New York subway tunnels and see all the slime moving, and they use the slime to take over the Statue of Liberty with the song Howard Huntsberry's cover of Your Love Keeps Lifting Me Higher and Higher, to bring the Statue of Liberty to life so that they can walk it into the museum where the picture, the evil painting of Vigo the Carpathian, is being housed. And once they break in, they're able to defeat Vigo the Carpathian and save the baby. So a little bit more about the development behind this. Apparently, some say that the chairman of Columbia Pictures at the time just did not want to make the sequel, that he was not interested in a high budget film like that and was putting efforts towards other things. Some people don't agree with that. Some say the actors didn't want to make the sequel. Rittman backed this up in an interview, and I've heard several times that Aykroyd and Rittman were always behind this, and Murray was kind of the one who didn't want to be part of it, but I'm not sure if that was the case back then. However, Bill Murray has said before that the script that he was pitched was not the movie that they made. And so he was behind this because he thought it was going to be a different movie. However, part of it was the script was being prepared. He was singing at different times, and he also had to make the movie Scrooge. And so that was taking up a lot of his time. And when he finished, the script wasn't completed. The new version wasn't completed. And it took some negotiations. But once things kind of worked out, the movie filming went smoothly. It took like 1 year to start and then get it out in 1989. But yeah, again, the script that Murray was pitched, Aykroyd has said it was really too far out and too inaccessible. And in this original script, and this is what got me doing this IQ point, is if they had the original script, I don't know how much that would be worth. It'd be like priceless. And I'd be super curious to read it because it's supposed to be like a better version of Ghostbusters 2. Or maybe not better. I would say better. It's inaccessible because in the 80s, like they couldn't do the special effects to make it work. And so they kind of switched things up. But Aykroyd, when he wrote it, he wanted to avoid New York City. So he tried to plan something overseas. And in this new version, or this different version, the original version, Dana was going to be kidnapped and taken to Scotland, where she was going to discover a fairy ring and get into antics with an underground society of like the Fae, the fairies and the witches, right? And the Ghostbusters would have had to fly over to Scotland and gone underground to save the day. And we can kind of see that the underground theme does carry over into Ghostbusters 2 as we know it today, because they go underground into the New York City subway system, and there's just tunnels for trains, most that have been abandoned, and that's where the slime is. So some of that's carried over. Then Ramis helped Aykroyd with the script and changed a few things. One big thing that they changed was that, what was it? Actually, Murray came in and changed this part. I'm sorry. Venkman and Dana were actually supposed to be like married and have a son together. The baby in it was supposed to be their baby. And Bill Murray is like, that doesn't work for me. It makes the movie too much focus on their relationship. So in the version of the movie we have today, Dana and Bill Murray's characters, Sigourney Weaver's and Bill Murray's characters, their relationship from the first movie didn't work out. Not only did it not work out, but she gets married, has a baby, and then gets a divorce. So she's on a string of bad relationships, and Bill Murray's kind of off by himself. I don't think he has many relationships because he's not very nice. So it is someone else's baby. They also ran into some issues writing the script because the cartoon was out, The Real Ghostbusters, and so many of their fans and people who were going to go see it knew the cartoon so well that they didn't want to discredit the cartoon. But the cartoon was technically kind of its own beast, its own story, and so they made an effort to not disqualify anything from the cartoon, even though the cartoon wasn't technically canon.
That's sad.
So they're having to work around that. Right? I love the cartoon too. And that's what most of the toys were about too, the cartoon.
Yeah.
And so technically at the end of it, they started trying to focus on the notion of human negativity as opposed to like ghosts and evil gods. And that's where we get New York City being the central theme, that everybody hates each other and they have to get along to beat this evil painting that's taking over. And then I found a little bit more on ScreenRant.com that Dan Aykroyd said that the villain of the original script was actually going to be a banshee-like figure in Scotland. So we would have seen a completely different villain, something with a banshee. But again, not quite sure how that would have worked logistically with the screen effects at that time. Rumors suggest that the title was going to be called I think Bill Murray said it might have been called The Last of the Ghostbusters. And then there's been a rumor going around. I couldn't figure out any actual funding or findings or grounding for this, that it could have been called Ghostbusters The Seed. And basically at the end of the day, I would have loved to see the script that they have in the box, because it very well could have been like, maybe it was just garbage. But if it had been some draft, I would have loved to see the Ghostbusters in Scotland fighting a banshee. It would have been, and I've heard that it was a really cool version of Ghostbusters 2, and what we got was kind of not bad necessarily, but kind of toned down and kind of goofy and almost satirical about New York negativity, and it's kind of well known for not working as well as that first Ghostbusters film. That's my IQ point. Hopefully it explains why I question them throwing that script away so quickly.
Yeah, I was wondering where you're going with this, and a little follow-up on that. I like to look at Rotten Tomato scores. So, following what you just said about Ghostbusters 2 and how it wasn't received very well, and how the first one was like received very well, here are the Rotten Tomato scores. So
show us the scores.
The original Ghostbusters, the Rotten Tomato score was 95. And an audience score of 88. So that's pretty high. Ghostbusters 2, the version that we all saw, not the Banshee version. Who knows what that would get. But that got a Rotten Tomato score of 55. Very low. And the audience score isn't that much better at 61. And going a little further into the future, the 2016 version of Ghostbusters, the all-girl Ghostbusters crew, that got a Rotten Tomato score of 74, And the audience score 49. Ugh, not so great.
I remember with that one, like, there was a lot of clashing because some people were saying people just hated it because it was an all-female cast. But then the argument was it just wasn't that good or funny of a movie. And I mean, technically, and this is what I hold as evidence for it wasn't that great of a movie, there was an entire dance number filmed and stripped out of the movie and then just applied to the credits because they didn't think it was as funny as it should have been and it didn't really fit. I'm like, if a movie has to film a dance scene and then cut it out of the movie, something's like that seemed weird to me. And I have issues with dance numbers, but a dance number in Ghostbusters also didn't really fit the bill. So for what it's worth, I thought the characters, the actors who played the Ghostbusters in that did a fantastic job, but the story itself was a little lackluster and some of the jokes fell flat.
I agree with that. It had, to me personally, it had nothing to do with them all being women as the Ghostbusters because I don't really care about that kind of stuff. But all the actresses that were in it, I loved. So I did have high expectations for it. And like you said, the story just wasn't really there. So yeah, it deserved a 49.
Yeah. I wish it could have been better because I love all things Ghostbusters, but it is what it is.
And then moving ahead to Ghostbusters Afterlife in 2021, that got a Rotten Tomatoes score of 64, but it got an audience score of 94.
Oh, wow.
And then the newest one, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, got a Rotten Tomatoes score of 42. But the audience score was 83. So not the people are loving it, but the critics are not.
Not everything's for the critics. Facts. Sometimes it's for the people.
Yep.
I like the two new movies. I don't think they're as good as the original. I think they're better than the sequel. And I'm happy to be getting any Ghostbusters stuff. And I like that they're making it scary again. That I felt like too much of Ghostbusters, the second one included, and the remake were a little bit too lighthearted. And the video game actually tapped into like, it's a scary video game. Like there's some scary, it's fun and they make jokes, but it's got some creepy elements to it. And Dan Aykroyd is really into supernatural stuff, right? So I feel like Ghostbusters hits home best when it actually gets into the unnerving a little bit, the scary, the creepy.
Yeah, agreed. And now that you mention it, because there was a little bit of crossover with the animated series with this, I wonder if the studio made that decision because they're trying to target a younger audience because of the cartoon. It's like, well, we don't want these kids to think, oh, I love Ghostbusters the cartoon, let's go watch the movie, and then just be scarred for life.
Having somebody's face melt off as ghost, a ghost form, right? What's wrong with that? And to be fair, when I first saw Ghostbusters, the very first scene in the library, I had to turn my head away when they see the librarian because she comes after them, and that's a creepy scene.
Yeah.
And that's like the opening scene. So, but I loved it nonetheless. That and I thought it was a werewolf when I was a kid, but the dog monster.
Oh my god, with the horns and everything. Yeah, that freaked me out as a kid.
He's like hiding in the closet, and then he chases the guy down and proceeds to basically eat the guy in front of an open window, and everybody just watches.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's terrifying.
Yep. Well, back to the cartoon, they didn't have an official Rotten Tomatoes score, but it did have an audience score. The real Ghostbusters animated show got an audience score of 80.
That's fair. Yeah. That's fair. I mean, it's a kid's cartoon, so you can't expect like Grammy Awards, but an 80 is a...
Some of the stuff that I remember watching from the animated show was so scary still that like I still think about it and I'm like, it's still like definitely scarred in my memory where it's like, oh my god. Maybe it was just because I was a kid, but at the same time, it's like, oh, the Boogeyman episodes. Do you remember those ones?
Mm-hmm.
God, the Boogeyman was terrifying in that. I remember having nightmares about that, and like being just always afraid of the Boogeyman.
You remember like the ultimate dimension they go to when the Ghostbusters put them away? and it's basically like a dimensional prison.
Yeah.
That place always terrified me as well. I'm like, why are they there? What happens when they're there? And they're just stuck in this, and this like all the bad ghosts. The newest Ghostbusters talks about that a little bit, but they don't really go. They don't make it sound like it's like a space prison. It's more like they're just frozen. It seems like that, but I am curious, like, where did the ghosts go?
Yep. The containment unit. That's right. That's what it's called.
Containment unit.
Well, there was another animated show in the like mid 90s, I think. Did you ever watch it? It was called The Extreme Ghostbusters.
I watched some episodes.
I watched that a lot. Now that was a creepy one. That was a really creepy one.
It was a lot creepier, not a lot creepier, but it seemed more mature than the original.
It was definitely not
series,
for kids,
right?
Yeah, it was definitely a Ghostbuster animated show for adults. And I was like in middle school and I was watching it, so I was like, oh my god.
This is weird.
Yeah.
I love it. That's all I have on Ghostbusters. I love Ghostbusters. Yeah. So thank you for staying with me for that IQ point.
Yeah. Well, Howard pulls out the Alf doll, and we pull down even more layers of Howard's backstory. His mom got him an Alf doll when he was 11 years old to help him sleep after his dad left. And then it gets really sad. But not as sad as not knowing that Adam West was TV's Batman.
I did like Howard saying, "Where's my dad, Alf? Where's my dad?" It's so sad.
Well, now we have the opening theme, and now they continue to go through the box, and it's all junk at this point. Spock's head with no body, Mr. T's body with no head, and boom, Spock's body with Mr. T's head. A pity the fool who's illogical. And then Penny's had enough, and she leaves. And like we talked about, oddly in good spirits, and we would both be pissed. So it's very shocking that she's not. She's just going to go.
She's like, I'm just going to make
a grilled cheese and browse around on eHarmony.
You know, I forgot that line, but yeah, she does impress it. Nobody notices.
Yeah.
You know, I used to think grilled cheeses were pronounced girl cheese.
Girl?
I thought they were for girls. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Like probably like through half of elementary school, I'm like, I don't want a grilled cheese. I'm a boy.
Isn't there a Boyd cheese?
I want a Boyd cheese. I'm manly.
There's nothing better in this world than a grilled cheese. It's really like, I don't do it very often because I got that like weird mentality that I need to have protein and everything like that. But so it's fucked up that I have to treat a grilled cheese as like a cheat meal. Because
I don't even like tomato soup, but dipping a grilled cheese into a tomato soup, I have to be careful not to say grilled cheese because in my mind it's still a grilled cheese. Like every now and then I slip up. Like, what would you say?
Or maybe secretly you want a girl and a cheese.
I want girl and cheese. Boom, bada boom.
Put it together. Hey.
It's like fondue. Fondue girl.
Fondue you.
Yeah. But like I don't really eat tomato soup, but dipping a grilled cheese in tomato soup, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
And for all the people that just say put some chicken or some turkey or something in your grilled cheese, then it's not a grilled cheese.
That's true.
Not happening.
It's a grilled chicken with cheese on it. Actually, I think all chickens are girls, right? It's roosters or boys. I don't know.
That's not the IQ point at hand. So
no.
But we do
negative IQ point. I'm so sorry.
But we do know from a previous IQ point that all chickens are assholes.
That's true. Chickens are assholes.
Well, then they find the Indiana Jones connect the dots, then an Aquaman action figure with a penis drawn on him, and then Raj just tries to smudge it off. And then they find it. They find the Lord of the Rings ring. And written in the language of Mordor in Elvish script. One ring to rule them all. One ring to find them. One ring to bring them all. And in the darkness, bind them. Ooh, they're nerdy. But I love it.
I love it so
I love
much.
it
Like
so much.
I
I had a coworker like pretty recently. He was a big Lord of the Rings fan, so every once in a while we would just like be in the office together, and one of us would just say, "One ring to rule them all," and then the other person would just carry on and everything like that. One ring to find them. It's like, okay, now back to
unspoken
work.
bond.
Yeah, yeah. Sadly, he moved away, but
Aw.
well,
So now it's just you talking to yourself
now
every now and then.
there actually was no friend. It was always imaginary. My precious.
My precious.
Well, now we're at the Cheesecake Factory, and they're all at the table, and Raj asks Sheldon for the ketchup at the other table. And rather than grabbing the ketchup, Sheldon tells him that ketchup started out as a general term for sauce, typically made of mushrooms or fish brine with herbs and spices. Some popular early main ingredients included blueberry, anchovy, oyster, kidney bean, and grape. And something that I wanted to know was, Raj, why didn't you just get up yourself the entire time? It's like, why are you asking somebody else across the table to go to a different table to grab something for you? I don't know. That just bothered me. It's like, just get it yourself.
I might do that if they're on that side, so I don't have to walk around everybody,
Yeah.
or like if it's like stretching distance where they can just reach out and get it. Like I might do that, but at the same time, if he knows what Sheldon's response is going to be, so just
He
save
knew.
everybody's
It's
time.
like, come on, you know Sheldon. He's not going to be helpful. But now we get into my IQ point. Hello,
Ketchup IQ.
Foodcast. Time to deep dive ketchup. I wanted to cross check to make sure that everything that Sheldon is true. And long story short, it is true. Wait, short story.
Short story, long story, it's true. Short story, true.
The long story is about to happen right meow. I found this on history.com and tasteofhome.com. Ketchup dates back to Imperial China as far back as 300 BC, and it was tomato free. Tomatoes were thought to be poisonous for the longest time, as wealthy Englishmen ate from pewter plates. The acids in the tomatoes leached the lead into the food and caused lead poisoning. The precursor to our ketchup was a fermented fish sauce from southern China from 300 BC, or possibly even beyond that. Texts began documenting the use of fermented paste made from fish entrails, meat byproducts, and soybeans. The fish sauce, called Ketchup or Gochup by speakers of the southern Min dialect, was easy to store on long ocean voyages. This sauce made its way through the trade route to Indonesia and the Philippines, where British traders developed the taste for it in the 1700s. From there, they took samples home and promptly corrupted the original recipe. The 18th century was a golden age for ketchup. Cookbooks featured recipes for ketchups made of oysters, mussels, mushrooms, walnuts, lemons, celery, and even fruits like plums and peaches. Usually, components were either boiled down into a syrup-like consistency or left to sit with salt for extended periods of time. Both these processes led to a highly concentrated end product, a salty, spicy flavor bomb that could last for a long time without going bad. The first tomato ketchup was born in 1812 by James Meese, a Philadelphia scientist. He said the choicest ketchup is made from tomatoes, or at the time, they referred to them as love apples, as they believed tomatoes had aphrodisiac powers. By this time in our history, tomatoes were not commonly used for sauces, as the tomatoes would quickly decompose. However, this small company thought to incorporate vinegar into the sauce. Maybe you heard of them. They're called Heinz. Heinz introduced its famous formulation in 1876, which contained tomatoes, distilled vinegar, brown sugar, salt, and various spices. They also pioneered the use of glass bottles so customers could see what they were buying. And how about some fun facts about ketchup? Ketchup is in 97% of American households, and the average American eats 71 pounds of ketchup per year. Back to
Damn.
Heinz. Have you ever noticed the slogan of Heinz is 57 varieties printed on each bottle? Well, that is actually a marketing myth. When Heinz invented the slogan, the company was producing over 60 flavors of ketchup. The marketing master simply thought the number was catchy, so it stuck. Today, the company sells more than 5,700 products. And if you still buy glass bottles of Heinz ketchup and you have trouble getting it out, just tap the 57 on the logo while you gently shake it, and boom, ketchup flows out. And that's what I had on ketchup.
I have some stuff I think I can add. I think you got most of what I had too, and more too. I didn't know about they were the first ones with glass bottles. I did pick up that they were calling it catsup at the time, CATSUP. What else do I have in here? So my big issue was what Sheldon was explaining sounded like Worcestershire sauce to me, because Worcestershire sauce often has like anchovies, different spices. It's more liquidy. And from what I found, they probably had some relationship. Worcestershire sauce is actually a type of sauce called garum, Garum, which is a fermented fish sauce from Western Mediterranean, the Greek age, and the Roman world. And it's really, as they were intermingling spices and, the Chinese sauce was brought up, England was kind of doing their own thing, and they were probably mixing stuff up. So I'm kind of curious if there was more intertwining there before ketchup became what we knew today. What else do I have in here? From Epicarius.com, I found an article by Matthew Zuras saying that there are a couple other potential origins of the name ketchup, because technically being translated, it doesn't match up exactly, but the one that is most likely is what you were saying, is that most historians think its origin is, how do you pronounce it? Ketchup?
The one that I found, the pronunciation was, what was it? Getsup? It was
Ketchup?
phonetically it was spelled GE-THCUP. So Getsup. Or
So I
I
got something a little bit different, because I got KE dash hyphen TSIAP. And I'm guessing that's the same thing, just
yeah.
different phonetics, right?
Yeah.
But that was like related to sweet soy sauce and fish sauce, and it's really about the umami flavor versus the sweet and sour flavor that we get from vinegar and tomatoes today. But the other two things that I found was, one, potentially it's from Cantonese for fan ketchup, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but from what I'm understanding, that was the name of a tomato. It's literally translated to foreign vine vegetable. And if you drop fan, you get ketchup. So some people think maybe that's part of it. Doesn't explain why Heinz called it catsup. And then there's a less likely version that the name was, and not embellished, influenced by Spanish escabeche, if I'm probably butchering that as well, which is a meal of meat or fish and vegetables with a vinegar flavored sauce. And it technically derives from an Arabic word, sikbach, Sikbag, which is translated to vinegary stew. So it's interesting because these all have to do with like kind of sauces and flavors and food. and mostly like fish and vinegar are like tied into them somehow. So, maybe they're all just kind of different origins, but it seemed like there were some connections. But yeah, I think the main one people believe in is the fish sauce, the one you were talking about. What else did I get in here?
Yeah, it does seem like it may have stemmed from the same product, but then it could have branched out because the article that I found said that once the British got a hold of it, they promptly bastardized it. They pretty much took the bit like, well, we like the sauce. They kind of told us how it was made, so we have to find a way to do it with the ingredients that we have on hand. And then
we're gonna do whatever we want.
It kind of just branches.
We're
out
England,
and then it branches
America.
out into different sauces. So that could have been the birth of Worcestershire. Sorry, everyone, we did not do an IQ point on Worcestershire, but we're speculating right now that it could have been. That could be the
and you're getting into stuff that's like pre-written records that we have, and a lot of folk knowledge where it's like, oh, we know about the sauce. Some sailors brought it back from Asia 100 years ago, and we've just improved it or changed it over time to be our liking. And so it could be influenced, and if it's mixed with their liking, then it changes it more, and it could be more influenced with. Yeah, so there's a lot to be said. The kidney beans thing, I found one part that said that the kidney beans may have been added as a substitute for soybeans to let the kidney beans ferment and get kind of similar flavor. So that kind of made more sense. When Sheldon said it, I thought they were just dipping kidney beans in there. I'm like, what are they doing? But I'm guessing they mashed them up and let them ferment a little bit. And then, yeah, you talked about the first tomato being added by James Massey. Sugar, as we know it today, is really a post-Civil War additive. And before that, it was not very sweet. And the sugar was added in two reasons. One, to balance out the vinegar, to make it kind of intense on both levels, sweet and sour. If that's how you would define vinegar, that's how they did in this article. But also with post-Civil War and sugarcane from the Caribbean being cheap and accessible, America started becoming known for adding sugar to everything, and we still are. Our sugar amounts are astronomical compared to the rest of the world, and so it makes sense that ketchup was just another thing that we started adding sugar to. And so I'm curious. I'd be curious about this, but I think most of the world doesn't have ketchup as sweet as ours. That ours is more Taylor based and definitely more sweet or sweeter than what it was hundreds of years ago. And I think that's about it. I was going to add that right now, my favorite type of ketchup, I do like Heinz. I think it's just fine. But my favorite is Portland ketchup. It's a brand out of Portland, Oregon, and it's really thick, tasty, a little pricey. And each one bottle comes with like a unique, it's kind of like Jones Soda where they have a unique picture on every bottle. But man, I love their ketchup, whatever you might call it. Cool. Do you have a favorite ketchup?
Well, I'm in an area where we don't really have a lot of artisan things. So Heinz, and everyone knows I'm in Pennsylvania. It's a home of Heinz. Granted, the Heinz factory it's not produced here anymore, but it got its origins from this area. The Heinz factory got turned into like an apartment complex or something like that. But it is in downtown Pittsburgh. But yeah, so Heinz kind of just rules everything here. So I honestly have not ventured out to too many different ketchups. Whenever we utilize ketchup in some sort of sauce or anything, we always just go for like the cheapest. So like Hunt's or Heinz or something like that. I definitely like Heinz over Hunt's though. Still thicker.
I have some Hunt's right now, and I like the taste a lot, but it is, like you said, it's not quite as thick, right?
Yeah.
So,
so I can't say that I'm a ketchup connoisseur.
I try. I can't say I am, but I've been known to go out and buy like 5 bottles and taste test for what that's worth.
Yeah.
But that's all I got too. Good tag team on the IQ.
Yeah. Foodcast.
Foodcast.
Well, now they start talking about The Ring. Howard noticed that there was no copyright markings on it, so he took it to his buddy, a buddy that deals in the seedy underbelly of the collectibles world, also known as Eddie Crispo. And they asked about seedy things. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, your black market phasers, your screen worn Lieutenant Uhura panties, that kind of stuff. And I just love the look that Sheldon and Leonard give each other, like, ugh.
I looked into this a little bit. I don't know if I would consider this a full IQ point, but I didn't actually look up used panties. So don't.
Good.
If you're listening, I didn't do that. I promise. But here's what I did do. I went into phasers and looked up like cheap phasers versus pricey phasers, and I found websites, even like just Etsy, that like either produce like are reselling like mass produced cheap plastic ones or like handmade and painted ones, but usually go for $20 to $50 if you're interested. But one came up on eBay that was going for about $2,000, and it was technically it's the Wand Company's Star Trek Original Series Phaser Universal Remote Control. So I think it's actually a remote control, but that thing looked fancy, and it came in like a special box with padding. So if you wanted something authentic, you're looking into thousands of dollars. But I'm guessing if it's a black market phaser, you're probably looking on the lower end, maybe like $40 to $50, and it's probably going to fall apart since it's black market. So what I did do with the screen worn Lieutenant Urara panties is I went first to just back check that Urara, is that how you pronounce it, Urara?
I guess we should let everyone know that we're not Star Trek fans. So
I do apologize. I'm looking at the movies. I think I want to do a watch along. We've been talking about that, but right now we are not the best of Star Trek fans, and apologize.
Sorry, everyone.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Originally portrayed by Nichelle Nichols, in the original Star Trek, and I saw that looks like the Smithsonian has one of her uniforms worn on set. No price for that, but it's clear that her clothing is going to museums. And what I did find was a couple auction sites. One was GWS Auctions, and they were doing a lot sale of 7 costumes that were worn on screen by multiple people. One of them was Uhura. And it was going, the lot of all 7 costumes going for $95,000, or it did go for $95,000. That was a few years ago, like 2019, I think it said. I could be wrong on that. And then PropStoreAuction.com had a uniform worn by Uhura in the 2013 movie version of Star Trek, Into Darkness, I believe it was, going for, or it went for $14,000. Although the website said it was estimated to be between $4,000 and $6,000. And so with that in mind, that recent movie is going for $14,000. One of the costumes was probably going for, part of the $95,000 lot, and one was no price. I'm like, how much is just a costume? You could really get a costume of Uhura's not worn, just cheaply made, for probably between $30 and $100. I looked at a couple of websites, and the $90 ones, $100 ones were better looking. The $20 to $30 ones look like plastic, but they did exist. So for what that's worth, I bet some screen worn underwear would have a high price tag as well. But one, you could never verify that they were actually screen worn, and 2, why would you want those? So
there's
that's
lot
what
of
I had on that.
Creeps out there, and
yeah,
I wanted to do, and I'm going to count this as kind of an IQ point, just because I did some research on this, but not a lot of research, because this is something that I do not want on my search history. Because even if you clear your history,
those cookies are burned in.
It's
forever.
It's there.
And you'll know it's there. Even if nobody else knows, you'll know.
Yeah. And that is not a search that I wanted to do. But because I wanted to find out how much these things actually go for. What is like the weirdest thing on the black market of of the seedy underbelly collectibles world, but then it's like, oh
Mm.
god, I don't want this on my search. I don't want to like go down this rabbit hole. I don't want to know about finds and everything. But in a basic search on a basic search of like the weirdest things that fans have bought, I stopped after this one. I'm sure there's weirder stuff out there, but I was like, I found one and I'm calling it. But according to an article in vulture.com, there in 2008, around the time the Avengers came out and everything like that, all the Marvel stuff was coming out, a used tissue from Scarlett Johansson was on eBay for $5,300, and somebody bought it.
Oh, oh god.
Yeah, so I will say I stopped my search after that. I was like, you know what? I'm good.
Like, there's a part of me that just wants to know how deep this rabbit hole goes, but there's another part, like, I don't want to know. It will give me nightmares.
Yeah, I don't want to know.
Huh.
Well, it's in the air if we're going to call that an IQ point. We'll decide at the end.
Yeah. Let me send you a few tissues, Rob, and then we can decide. Merry Christmas. Here's my used tissues.
You better priority overnight that, because I want it wet.
Yeah.
Well, their friend Eddie says that the ring is the real deal, that it has production markings on the inside. And then Howard goes on to say that 9 rings were made for the use in the Lord of the Rings movies. 3 were given to members of the cast. The rest were destroyed, except 1. 1 was stolen. Gentlemen, this is the one ring. And I'm guessing they're trying to mirror what they said in the books and the movies, that 3 rings went to the elves, 7 to the dwarves, and 9 to men. And then Sheldon just snatches the ring, claiming that it's his under maritime law, that the finder of sunken treasure is the owner of the treasure.
That's maritime law effect now.
Well, did you? Yeah, it doesn't, which they say later on. But did you do any research on maritime law?
No, I actually did it into how many rings were said to have been made for the movies.
I did that too.
And so,
do you want to go first with the rings, or do you want to go maritime law?
I'll do rings first and then maritime law.
All right.
That works. But I'm curious about maritime law too. All right, so we have to start off by saying that this took place before the Hobbit trilogy was released. So this is pre-2012, 2014. So we can't count how many rings were made for those. But from what I saw, and most of my information comes from GameRant.com. Some of it's that I've heard throughout the years. Definitely more than 9 rings. Reportedly about 40, maybe over 40, because they needed various sizes for different people at different times of the movies. And you think about that, like Elijah Wood puts it on, his ring finger is going to be different than somebody else putting it on, right? So they, in different angles and wanting different shapes of the ring. Yeah, so they had more than 9. They allegedly had over 40. And legend goes that most of the rings are, I don't know, it didn't really say what they did with them, but legend goes that 1 ring was given to Elijah Wood and 1 ring was given to Andy Serkis? Gollum and Frodo, right? And that each of them was told, this is the one ring that exists. The others have been destroyed. And so they went on for years thinking, I have the one ring. But again, that is rumor, and nobody's exactly sure what went down, but it is kind of funny. I was going to add, this is kind of short one, but I did have in there that swords were actually even more sought after, and that the rings are cool, but apparently people were paying money. People were given swords. People took their swords home and tried to keep them and sell them and stuff like that. But apparently, if you are interested in movie stuff, it's going to be easier and probably pricier to try to get swords from the movie. But I just wanted to point out, for what I did find, is that there were definitely over 90 or more than 9, probably over 40, and that the prop rings were given to Elijah Wood and Andy Serkis. So that's what I have.
Nice. Well, I will piggyback on this because we'll combine this as one IQ point, because I wanted to know, we're getting a little bit ahead of the storyline, because Howard says that their friend Eddie would price this ring at about $15,000. So I wanted to know how much a replica ring actually would cost, and how much it actually, the value, if someone actually did find it. And I couldn't find that exact, like, because it's like you said, lore says that most of them were destroyed or gotten rid of or in a vault somewhere in the studio. So we can't really put a value on the ring itself because it was never auctioned off. It was never even attempted to be sold. But I found, if you are interested in official movie replicas, you can hop on the jenshansons.com to purchase one. Because the owner of that company, Jens Hoyer Hansen, was the designer and creator of the One Ring for the movies. So they make it a business to do replicas. Though, sadly, he never got to see his work on the big screen as he died before the movies came out. So, if you go on the website, you could actually purchase your own replica ring from at least the company that created the ring.
But no Hobbit will have blown their nose into that ring.
So it's worthless.
It's worthless. I want a used ring.
Yeah.
I need some
Elijah Wood dead skin on that ring.
Yeah.
Well, if you are interested in getting a ring, there are 3 different types. They named them after some of the characters, but the name is just kind of like a placeholder for the style. So there is the Bilbo ring, which is made of sterling silver. It'll cost you 199 American dollars. You can go for the Gollum ring, which is a 10-karat solid gold ring, which would cost you about 2,000 American dollars. And then there's also it's called the Lord of the Rings ring, which is a gold-plated tungsten carbide, which only goes for $99.
So that's the economy version.
Yes.
No one's really gonna know, but
no one will know. It's plated. It's fine.
Yeah, it's gonna be in a drawer somewhere, and you might show it once in a while. But
and following up on the actual original ring, it's like you said, there wasn't just one ring. I found also that there was about 40 of them, and the original ring that we see on screen was co-producer Rick Porris's wedding ring. This actually became the prototype for the One Ring. And most of the rings that they actually produced, of the 40 rings, weren't pure gold. Most of them, for budgetary reasons, were just gold-plated silver. And many of the rings were not actual ring size. They were actually huge. They were actually like the size of basketballs. Because like for those close-up shots, they didn't want to just do a close-up of like one small little ring. They actually made them like huge, like it'll fit over
with like
your
macro
head.
lenses. It's easier to have a big ring.
Yeah, and then they would just swap it out when someone picks it up and everything to an actual ring. Yeah.
Fit a lot of dead skin cells on a basketball ring.
Hair follicles and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Well, according to cheatsheet.com, the Jens Hansen company still possesses, and it allows customers to go see the large ring. So according to
the large ring to rule them all.
Yep. But for the props that were actually auctioned off, it was mainly the gold-plated silver versions. So not the pure gold. So they actually did make some pure gold, which I'm guessing went to Andy Serkis and Elijah Wood. But for the ones that they actually did auction off, the gold-plated silver, they had an estimated sale price of $50,000 to $80,000. So I could not. It was at an auction, so I couldn't confirm what they actually sold for. but the starting prices were between 50 and 80,000. And that was back in December of 2013.
Here's a question. Do you think what's his name? Peter Jackson has right to those rings? Like I feel like at the end of the movie, Leonard's saying we need to mail it back to Peter Jackson. I'm like,
I didn't think so.
Feel like he has right to them.
I would say it's the studio.
Yeah, the studio, and I don't know. Damn the man. I don't care if the studio has it. They should have kept it better. Yeah, lock and key. Finders keepers. Maritime Law. I found it.
Well, we will get into that after I go into the most valuable ring from Lord of the Rings. It is a lot more than you think, and it's not an actual ring. It is a card from Magic the Gathering's Lord of the Rings edition. You heard that right. The most valuable ring and the most expensive One Ring out there is a Magic the Gathering card. It is a serialized 001/001, meaning I'm pretty sure that means that there's literally only one of them printed.
1 out of 1, yeah.
Yep. Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle-earth. And the buyer paid $2 million for it. And guess who that buyer is? None other than musical artist Post Malone. You're stewing on something right now.
I'm reminded of the McDonald's Monopoly scam and how they're like, if you go out, you can get these game pieces and you can win $1 million or something, right? And it turned out that the guy creating the pieces, did you watch a documentary on this?
No, I didn't.
Do you remember the Monopoly game?
Oh, yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
I never won anything, but no, I take that back.
The guy creating the pieces. That's why the chicken nuggets. And there was a reason for that. Yeah. The guy creating the pieces hoarded the good pieces and would give them to his friends and family and sell them off through the mafia and stuff. And I believe one of them he gave to a I don't know, he put in an envelope and gave to an orphanage or something, or a children's hospital. And so there was this urban legend, apparently it was partially true, that this hospital found the game piece in an envelope on their doorstep or something. And they got the money, but in fact, they didn't even have to pay it back. I think McDonald's was fine with that once everything hit the fan. But it did turn out that nobody was winning anything because the guy creating the pieces kept them all. So when people are like, there's this one Magic the Ring card that you're lucky if you know what? One person got that and they knew exactly who was getting it and they sold it because it was a publicity stunt. And I don't think that shit's fair. And I don't feel like the rich should be able to control stuff that much. So I guess Post Malone's not the filthy rich. He's not a Bezos or a Elon Musk, but still, I don't think that's fair to the rest of us. Oh, you can't have this card because you're not a millionaire. Fuck that.
Yeah. The funny thing about these cards, Magic the Gathering, I remember a lot of the most valuable and rare ones weren't even good cards.
That's absolutely true.
It's
the Black Lotus, right?
Yeah, it's it's just one mana point, but it's one of the rarest. Which Post Malone actually did purchase an original as well. He's a big,
Magic that's understandable because that's only $500 to $1,000, I think, depending on. I remember when I was a kid, it was going for $100 to $300. So I imagine with prices soaring, it's probably a little bit more, but also conditions are probably worse now because they probably are in some kid's closet for so long. Actually, no, everybody knew what the fucking Black Lotus was. If you got that, even if you're 8 years old, you put that in a card carrier and you sold it or something. Yeah. You took good care of that.
Back to the McDonald's thing, I heard a different rumor that that half the pieces went to the West Coast and the other half of the board went to the East Coast to ensure that people wouldn't be able to complete their
watch the documentary. I'll try to send it to you, or at least the one I watched, and there were different renditions of the game, so newer renditions are probably different, but the one in the 90s, I believe, there were a couple iterations where this guy was I want to say he was out of Florida too, was really keeping all the good pieces. And that just pisses me off because I loved that game as a kid because it was so exciting and
the chance
everybody
to
just
win
needed Boardwalk. Yeah.
I needed more reasons for orange icy and fries.
Yeah, right. I had enough chicken nuggets, but
I'm so glad they brought orange icy back though. That was the best.
Do you remember when McDonald's Happy Meals used to have cookies in them?
Yeah, I do remember that.
So they used to have cookies that were like sugar cookies or shortbread that were in the shapes of characters.
Yeah.
Do you remember the chocolate chip cookies?
No, I remember.
See, that's
cookies in general, but now it's like
I remember. Now they give you like fruit, and that's healthier. But when I was a kid, I always wanted the chocolate chip cookies, and then they switched over to like the shortbread. I'm like, I'm getting fucking ripped off, and I was like 4 or 5 at the time, but I knew when I was getting ripped off. And now kids get like half an apple or something,
which is actually probably more expensive. So they're actually probably getting, from a financial perspective, they're actually making it out. But no kid wants fruit over a cookie,
right? Although that's the soda that they have. If they get, I guess they get like juice packs with it. But if they get a soda, that soda has more sugar than the whole meal and the box of cookies combined.
God, I can't wait to start buying Happy Meals for Hunter. We're probably like 5 years out, but like, God, I'm excited. I hope they still have good toys.
Have you gotten any of the adult Happy Meals?
No, I heard about that though. Like they're bringing back like some vintage toys.
Like every now and then they'll have one. It's like a 10-piece chicken nugget or like a Big Mac Happy Meal, but they have like mashups with like artists like creating like Happy Meal toys that are not for kids, but they're kind of cool looking. And
I want them to bring back like the vintage like the food Transformers, like the cheeseburger that like I love those. Like I remember I got like kind of drunk one night and I hopped on eBay and I almost bought the collection. I was like, oh yes, I've always wanted that pterodactyl.
He's all I wanted as
the pterodactyl hotcakes. That's all I've been wanting my entire life. But then I was like, no, don't do it.
No, save the money.
Yep.
I don't even think McDonald's, if they make hotcakes, they don't put them in the styrofoam containers anymore. And that Transformer was like in a styrofoam container, right?
Was, yeah.
Yeah, that's how the wings fold out.
Yeah. Always wanted that one. One day, I'm coming for you.
Pterodactyl, you will be mine.
And I will eat hotcakes while I play with you.
In my naked body, you will feel it. Hotcakes, Transformer. Well, all right, so IQ point.
Okay, almost complete. I found on Screen Rant the top 10 most valuable movie props from the Lord of the Rings series. And, like you said, the swords were definitely more valuable. So the top 3 were Sting, which was Bilbo's sword that was passed down to Frodo, the one that glowed blue when orcs around. That is valued at $162,500.
Damn.
Then there's Gimli's axe, which is valued at $187,500. And then the most valuable Lord of the Rings prop is Andúril, which is the reforged sword that Aragorn acquires. It is worth $437,000.
I read that I didn't go deep enough to write down the notes, but Liv Tyler's character, apparently there's some deleted scenes where she fought with a sword, and that one was going for sale too. I'm like, that would have been cool to have her sword that was deleted from the film.
That must be valuable. Like, yeah,
right.
The elven swords are so cool looking. How they're like really
right, yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Oh man, but What would you rather have? A hotcakes pterodactyl or a sword?
Hotcakes pterodactyl, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's what we have on movie props. That's what we have on The One Ring. Anything else?
Nope. I want to hear about the Maritime Law now. What am I allowed to steal?
All right. We are jumping right into the next IQ point. So, Sheldon snatches the ring, claiming it's his, that under maritime law, the finder of sunken treasure is the owner of that treasure. Basically, he's saying finders keep. Sorry, I keep smacking my. I keep smacking my mic. It's like right there. Sorry, everyone.
Whack, whack, whack! Take that, Mike.
If anybody watches on YouTube, I even noticed myself on Microsoft Teams calls. When I talk, I use a lot of hand gestures. I don't know why, but it helps me. So I'm smacking things around left and right.
If you see it, I mean, if you're on YouTube, you can see this, but if you're hearing me, you can't. But I have this little bit of glass that I blew myself, and it's a horrendous attempt at blowing glass. But blowing glass is hard. It was the only time I've ever blown glass. So I got this, and it's on my desk. What?
What's it supposed to be?
Just a chunk of glass color. Like it was I don't know, an orb or something. It was just your attempt at blowing glass. So I did it, and this is what I did, and I put it on my desk, and I fiddle with it when I'm doing phone calls and Zoom meetings. So like, if you ever notice, like in the bottom of the screen, like my hand's always moving up and down because it's almost like a.
So that's what you're fondling spinner all day.
Yeah,
you're fondling that when you're talking to me. How inappropriate.
Well, with this hand, not the other hand.
That's just what I do with my left hand.
Left hand.
I don't even know what we're talking about now.
I'm thinking is like you said, I smack my mic, and I'm like,
oh,
that's the kid he has sitting on his desk. I smack him. Take that, Mike.
All right, I'm done smacking my mic, so I don't have to think about Ryan fondling his glass bulb.
What is it supposed to be? It's supposed to be a chunk of glass. I don't know. But blowing glass is pretty tough. Let me tell you what, it's hot too, and it's a hot summer day, and I want it out of there.
It does look fun, though. I do watch a lot of those videos on Instagram, and they do look really cool.
My lung capacity is not that big either. It's tough.
All right, back to Maritime Law, everyone.
Maritime Law.
So basically, Sheldon is saying finders keepers, according to Maritime Law. And I found this on multiple law websites and shipping and yachting sites. So lawinfo.com, WCLAW.com, businessinsider.com, and cambridge.com. Oh, correction, cambridge.org. So Sheldon is sort of right. In the seas, when you find something, there is something called the law of finds. This generally applies to found shipwrecks. Shipwrecks that have been missing for a certain period of time, and the original owners stop looking for the ship. So, assuming the ring has been missing for a long time, which it does not specify the duration in any of the law articles, and that Peter Jackson himself is not actively looking for it, then technically the ring does belong to the guys. So that may sound like finders keepers, but it's really not, because the law does say that they have an obligation to report it to the authorities. Once it's reported, the governing officials will seek out the owners, and if they are either not tracked down or they just don't care, then the treasure will belong to them. And to continue on with more maritime law, if anyone's interested, this will depend where the shipwreck or treasure is discovered. So in 1987, the United States passed a law called the Abandoned Shipwrecked Act. This act gives title of all shipwrecks within the United States waters to the United States, and not to the discoverer of the shipwreck. U.S. territorial waters extend at least 3 miles from the coastline. Further, If the remains of the United States or a foreign government ships are recovered, then the law of fines does not apply, since it is generally accepted that governments never abandon the search and recovery efforts of their own vessels. In addition to the law of fines, there's also what's called the law of salvage. The law of salvage encourages those on the sea to help one another. Accordingly, a person who helps find a vessel that is in trouble is often entitled to a reward for risking his own life, his own safety to help his fellow seamen. The law of salvage may apply if sorry. The law of salvage may apply if there is a vessel in trouble or if a ship is already submerged in the water. The person who discovers the troubled vessel and helps to recover its passengers or contents is known as the salver. The salver has the responsibility to surrender the ship and its contents to the vessel's lawful owner as long as the owner compensates the salver for his or her actions. If the owner refuses to compensate the salver, then the salver must surrender the ship or its contents to the United States Marshal and seek a maritime lien against the owner. The amount of the salvage award is based on several factors, including the degree of risk undertaken by the salver, the difficulty of the rescue or the recovery operation, and the value of the goods and or vessel that are recovered. Typically, the salvage award is approximately 10 to 25% of the total value of the property that the salver recovers. However, in certain circumstances, the percentage of the value awarded to the salver may be as high as 50% of the total value of the property recovered. So that's all cool, but like Leonard said, they're not at sea. What about finding treasure on land? So I found this on lawpath.com. Very similar to maritime law, finders does not mean keepers. When you find a piece of property, it needs to be determined if it's a lost or abandoned item. You, as the finder, have the responsibility to search for the true owner. It also makes a difference where the property is found. The courts would need to determine the exclusivity of the location. Meaning, was it found on someone's personal property? Was it a public space? Was it a quasi-public space? Meaning like a bank? Ultimately, Sheldon, you're sort of right. Finders is sort of keepers, but you should be taking the path of Leonard. They should have just emailed Peter Jackson's people and then wait for like a grace period.
You have 10 hours to get back to me.
Otherwise, it's mine.
Fine.
So he's kind of
reminds me that with cars on property, we have some friends who bought some land nearby, and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. In fact, even my parents, when they were looking for a cabin out like in the mountains, for some reason, people who have property out in the middle of nowhere love to just pollute it with garbage and shit. It's like the fun thing to do. Like, I got property, I'll just put shit in all over the place. And so I don't know why this pisses me off so much. I think it's because it's an environmental hazard, because it hurts future generations, because it's just a discourtesy to nature in general. But I think they found like 5 or 6 cars on their property.
That's right. They told me about that.
Parts of cars. And they can't just get rid of them. They have to call the cops and have them come out and try to find the owners with each one of them. And that is like after months of waiting and working with it, they can finally like have it hauled off and garbaged.
Wait, so they couldn't even move it?
Nope. Like you have to hold it there for months while you try to find the owners.
Oh, God.
Yeah, there are so many laws about it that it's like, oh, you can't just get rid of it and tell like the cops. You have to like wait and see what happens and then get word that it's okay. And it's also expensive because it's like on your own time and dollar too. So it's if you're looking at property and you see cars like just abandoned there, it's probably more pain than it's worth, and you have to add that to the cost of the property because it is a headache. And for some reason, people just love to say, "Oh, you can drop off your car on my lot. I'm not really using that space." But when they die, and 50 years later, it's going to be somebody else's headache. And so it irritates me so much. But yeah, it's absolutely true that makes sense that technically, legally, they would be obligated to track down who the owner is. I was also going to say that if you ever see the movie Ghost Ship, I like it a lot. I also like what's her name? Emily Browning, is that her name? From the I know she was in American Gods.
Sucker Punch?
Yes, from Sucker Punch as well. She was also in the original series of Misfortunate Events as the older daughter.
Oh.
She's the childhood ghost in Ghost Ship, and it's cool to see her acting career because she's always been a great actor. But anyways,
I just remember the opening scene of that movie. I do remember that.
The opening
very
scene.
Violent.
It's like technically the movie's about salvagers trying to find ships to salvage, and like you said, rule of salvage to get like a reward for it. And that's when they stumble upon this ship that's been abandoned, and they mentioned some stories, and it had me looking up maritime law a little bit and ghost ships, and they are a thing. And it's terrifying that every now and then a ship is just found abandoned. Where the people went, nobody knows.
In my research, apparently it happens more often than you think. Like something happens, and then everybody just abandons ship. So there are
and
thousands...
the ship's fine. Usually the ship's fine. Sometimes it is. So
there are just thousands of ships just on our sea right now, just abandoned, just drifting, just drifting away.
And where did the people go? They might have just left. They might have
ghosts,
bad weather, but ghosts, monsters.
They had to get some hotcakes.
Hotcake pterodactyls. Cool. Good IQ point.
Yeah, but that's what I had on maritime law. So I don't know why he went down the route of maritime law, because like I could not find anything specifically if you found an item by itself in the ocean. Everything was revolved around shipwrecks and finding a ship, because I guess they're just associating that in quote treasure to the ship itself.
Yeah.
So I think it just kind of applies to the ship. But anyways, my favorite line of the episode is from Rosh, and where he just cuts him off and says, "Sheldon, stop being crazy." I love how he just cuts him off. Like, you know what, Sheldon, just shut up. Enough of your maritime law. How much is this worth? And then we kind of already went into that. Howard says that Eddie is probably saying it's about $15,000. And so Raj wants to take that ring and cash out and get some jet skis, because all the wealthy and beautiful people have jet skis.
I get 1 point for being like Raj here. If it was up to me, the ring would be sitting in somebody's room and it would be cool, but it would also be divided by 4 of us. And I feel like the best way to handle it would be to cash out and get something everybody can enjoy. Maybe not a jet ski, but use it for like a fun vacation for everybody. Use it for, tickets to Japan or something cool, or a movie set, or I don't know. But I feel like that would be better spent for a bonding experience for the friends, and a jet ski might be that bonding experience. I don't know.
It's the time machine all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Where they just couldn't figure out how to divide it up.
Exactly.
Well, I think Sheldon has the best idea out of all of them. They can't sell it. They have to keep it and love it and polish it, and only take it out occasionally when we go to the park and reenact our favorite scenes from the movies. And then Howard just says what we're all thinking. Oh, that sounds amazing. I hate how much I love that idea. Amazing. And then Leonard is just overly righteous and says that the ring belongs to Peter Jackson. It needs to return to him. And then Howard agrees.
I don't agree with him.
I don't agree with this either. Yeah. Leonard's wrong, but I feel like it was all a ploy to keep the ring himself.
At the end of the day, it's a ploy. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he's
a chess player. He's thinking like several steps ahead. Well, Howard agrees to this as long as he gets to be a hobbit in one of Peter Jackson's next movies. And then Raj says, there are no Jewish hobbits. And then I forgot what Howard said. I didn't write that down. But we're just going to dive into the submitted IQ points.
Oh, he goes, apparently you've never been at my house on Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah.
So apparently there are some hobbit-looking individuals
in his
celebrating.
Family.
Yes. But we have a guest IQ point today.
Yes. Thunderous applause for Michelle.
Yay.
Last episode, we mentioned that there was a request from Michelle on our timeline on how we were recording and what our calendar was like. And she wanted to submit an IQ point. So here is the email and IQ point from Michelle. She says, "Hi guys, after watching the precious Fragmentation, I decided to submit an IQ point regarding Rosh Hashanah, a Jewish holy day. Since I'm Jewish, I found it fitting. This is mentioned in the scene at the Cheesecake Factory when Raj says, there are no Jewish hobbits, and Howard says, you've never been to my house on Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year. It is a high Sabbath, and we do not work on this day. Here's some information from Jewfacts.org regarding the holiday," which I will say I did explore around, and there's a ton of great information on Judaism on that. So if you're interested, you should definitely check it out.
Jewfaq.org.
The name Rosh Hashanah means literally head of the year or first of the year. On Rosh Hashanah, we renew the crowning of God as sovereign of time and space, Melech HaOlam, and renew our relationship with him with celebration and blasts of the shofar, a ram's horn trumpet. There is one important similarity between the Jewish New Year and the American one. Many Americans use the New Year as a time to plan a better life, making resolutions. Likewise, the Jewish New Year is a time to begin introspection, looking back at the mistakes of the past year and planning the changes to make in the new year. I hope I picked a good IQ point. Thanks for allowing me to do this. Blessings, Michelle. I thought that was great. I think it's great that I encourage everybody to submit an IQ point. Or even just a request, like, I heard Sheldon say this, so can you just talk about that? Or anything. But if you want to fill out the IQ point yourself, cuts down the work on us.
Yeah, we can read it very easily. We can read real good.
I've been practicing my words.
My words.
Well, to follow up on that, she didn't say when Rosh Hashanah is celebrated. And because the Jewish calendar is different from our Gregorian calendar, it is on a different day every year. But if you want to celebrate in this year, which is 2024, it begins before sundown on Wednesday, October 2nd, and ends after nightfall on Friday, October 4th.
Her saying High Sabbath made me think of the musical Rent. And also the fact that when you say holy day, that's actually where the word holiday comes from. HOLI was HOLY, day, holy day, holiday. So holidays now aren't necessarily holy, but originally they were, and those words were combined. But in the musical Rent, there is a line by Roger saying, Mark Cohen will preview his new documentary about his inability to hold an erection on high holy days. And I've always wondered, what does this mean? High holy days, holidays. But a few things that I learned as I looked into this, just to get more perspective for me, that technically high Sabbaths, there's 7 biblical festivals that fall into this category in both Christian beliefs and Jewish beliefs, depending on the practice, I suppose. But there is Passover, and if I get this wrong, please feel free to send in an email because this is all very, very new to me. But Passover, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of First Fruits, the Feast of Weeks or Pentecost, the Feast of Trumpets, Rosh Hashanah, the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, and the Feast of Tabernacles. And this is recorded in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. But the main thing is high holy days are actually Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And they're also called the Days of Awe. And technically, they are near each other. There's 10 days between them. And the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are called the 10 days of Teshuvah, or also known as the 10 days of repentance. And they are used to think about repenting and bridging a gap with God and learning about yourself a little bit more in a perspective, I suppose, which goes with, what Michelle was saying, that, Americans think of the new year as resolutions, but technically the new year in Jewish culture is introspection and looking back at the mistakes of the past year and planning on changes for them to make in the new year. And then the last thing I got was technically this is on different days each year, but typically it's somewhere in the end of September, early October. But I thought it was interesting that this makes more sense that technically there's 2 feasts that are, or holidays that are kind of linked there, and makes a little bit more sense for a little bit more sense. I still don't know how exactly that was connected, but it was mentioned, and so it had me looking into what these high Sabbats are and the main holidays.
When you read that quote from Ren, I thought you were going to talk about erections. So I'm glad you took a more wholesome.
So there's 7 main erections, and you get them on different days of the year.
That took a nice wholesome turn.
Ryan, we have to remove you from the podcast.
You'll hear from my lawyer. It's Raj's cousin.
It's Raj's cousin.
Well,
but he tries so hard.
Well, one last note on this. I did a little bit of research on what Raj said, that there are no Jewish hobbits. And that is true. None of the actors that played hobbits are Jewish.
Huh.
But did you know that the dwarves in the Lord of the Rings and the hobbits are an allegory for the Jews? Well,
the dwarves and the hobbits?
Just the dwarves.
Just the dwarves. Okay,
yeah.
Just the dwarves.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, sorry. I meant in the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit series.
I gotcha.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
In this universe, the dwarves are an allegory for the Jewish people. Well, sort of.
That makes kind of some sense. Tolkien was writing some Christian allegory, so I could see him putting some racist allegories in there. It's kind of like Walt Disney. Have you ever seen, I think it was called Small One. It's like a Christmas movie where this kid has to sell a donkey at the market. And it's pretty big that it's like saying the Jewish townsfolk are like all the marketplace owners, and they all want to take advantage of the kid and buy the donkey for meat and stuff. And they sing about money. And then, of course, because it's Disney and it's Christmas, he sells it to Mary and who was her husband? Joseph, yeah, because they're about to have a baby and they have to have a donkey carry them to Bethlehem or something. It was like, something from like the 50s.
Okay, and, I do not recognize this at all.
Yeah, this is I think it's on the same DVD I have of Disney's what is it? Christmas Carol, where Uncle Scrooge is playing Scrooge, right?
Scrooge
from
McDuck.
Christmas Carol. Yeah, and then Goofy is like his old business partner, and he's visited by 3 ghosts. One's Jiminy Cricket.
It's been such a long time since I've Yeah.
Oh, you gotta watch that. I watch that every Christmas. I love that cartoon.
Well,
I
hopefully
love
it's on.
Christmas Carol in general, but
Yeah, hopefully it's on Disney Plus. At this point, Hunter will be a little over 2 years old, so he should be able to handle that.
you might give it a once over just in case because
Yeah.
it goes.
Maybe not then.
I love it though. I highly recommend it to anybody. But anyways, the old Disney cartoons were kind of racist, so
Oh,
for
for
what it's worth.
sure. Like, sorry, we're taking a little bit of a tangent, but I did notice on the kids version of Disney Plus, Peter Pan wasn't on there, and I was like,
Really?
that's weird. Original Peter Pan isn't in the kids section. That's kind of weird. And then I didn't watch it, but my wife decided to put it on just to watch it and everything like that, and she was like, "Holy shit, this is like." Like, oh god, no wonder it's not in the kids section.
How is this allowed?
Yeah, it's like you know what, it was a product of the times in the 50s. I'll just leave it at that.
Product of something.
But I will say, like, based off the research, I will say that Tolkien actually loved Jewish people, and everything that the people were connecting with the dwarves and the Jewish population was completely unintentional. So I found this amongst many articles and forums of fans that found the parallels of the way that the dwarves were written with the Jewish population. So the OneRing.net, Times of Israel, and Quora and Reddit. Through interviews with Tolkien in the 70s, he explains all of this is coincidence and not intentional. But it made a lot of sense because he served in World War I and he lived through World War II. So he sympathized with the Jewish community. And in 2007, a Tolkien scholar, John Ratcliffe, author of a 2-volume Hobbit history, says that Tolkien drew inspiration from Hebrew texts and Jewish history when developing the dwarves. As craftsmen exiled from a bountiful homeland, the dwarves spoke both the language of their adopted nation and, among themselves, a Hebrew-influenced tongue developed by Tolkien. And there are also letters found from Tolkien to his son, openly expressing his disdain of Hitler and how he perverted the Jewish reputation by spreading lies about them.
But aren't the dwarfs really like stereotypical, known for like greed and wanting gold and stuff?
Yeah, it is. So that's kind of where people were putting the pieces together. So there was some negative connotation on it, but according to Tolkien, it was never intentional. It was kind of like, oh shit, that's kind of how the cookie crumbled.
And there were other connections as well, not just like you said, the languages in the background.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, that is our IQ point on Rosh Hashanah and what Raj said about no Jewish hobbits. So, Michelle, I hope you don't mind that we piggybacked on your IQ point to add to it.
I feel like that's probably the brightest IQ point we've had all the whole episode, so thank you.
Well, no, we learned a lot about ketchup.
Yeah, we did learn about, I call it catsup.
God, I always think of Simpsons. Mr. Burns, before he got taken away to like the retirement home, he's like, ketchup or catsup? Ketchup or
Are
catsup?
You here to solve my catsup problem? Yeah.
Sure, buddy. Sure. Well, back to Big Bang Theory. At this point, Sheldon steals the ring from under their noses to illustrate that anyone could have stolen it. And then Penny enters with their food and sarcastically tells them that she actually brought them their food instead of promising to bring it and bringing a box of crap instead. And then Leonard asks Penny to hold on to the ring. And Penny just has to make an amazing observation to the situation. She says, okay, just to be clear, the first piece of jewelry my boyfriend gives me is a prop from a movie and I don't even get to keep it. And then Howard throws out there, hey, if you'd gone out with me 3 years ago, by now you'd have my great Aunt Ida's brooch that she smuggled out of occupied Belgium in a cat. And I thought that was kind of a strange thing to say when he's happily dating someone else. Maybe more on that later.
Maybe. Oh, I could see him saying it too, just like, nah, 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 nah.
Well, now we jump ahead, and amazing scene. Sheldon tries to steal the ring while Penny and Leonard are sleeping. It results in Sheldon getting punched, and another great showing of tough Penny. How she saw him, the moment she saw him, pow! Love it. So now we're at the cafeteria, and Sheldon looks wrecked. Raj comes over saying they should do the reasonable thing and sell the ring and divide up the profits, which I think you and I both agree that's what they should do.
Yeah.
They all say no, and then he busts out his laptop where his lawyer cousin is there. Venkatesh Kutherpally, played by Frank Maharaj. Well, Frank has done several small roles in very big shows. He seems like he's been typecasted as a doctor and a detective. So he's been in NCIS, Superstore, Supergirl, Jane the Virgin, Grey's Anatomy, Modern Family, and Scrubs. And he's in an episode of The Office.
Wow.
Shout out to The Office because Ryan is watching Office for the very first time ever.
I put it on hold for a month or two, but I need to get back into it. I've had other things I've been trying to catch up on. So,
are you still in season 3?
I think so. Oh, I might be starting season 4. I got distracted. I have an attention span of a goldfish.
Life happens. He's in an episode called Business Trip, season 5, episode 7. So be on the lookout. Well, he tries He tries.
Say what? Unsexfully?
He tries. Slip. He tries unsuccessfully to get them to buy Raj 2 jet skis. They say no, and then he drops to 1 jet ski. And then they call his bluff, and Raj gets nothing. I like how he just says, you're worthless. He just looks at him and says, yeah, I told you that from the start.
I like how he answers, like, call your mom. She's worrying about you. Right?
Well, mom. Leonard's had enough, and Penny gave back the ring, and he's going to ship it back. But it's gone. Shocker. Sheldon stole it again. That's what happens when you go pee.
You gotta know your surroundings when you're in the restroom.
Well, they all start fighting over the ring, and while they're all holding the ring, they decide last man standing gets to keep it. So then they have to exit out strategically, and then Raj forgets his laptop, so they have to strategically go back and grab his laptop. And now they're coming up the stairwell, all holding the ring.
Oh, I had a quick, I'm not going to call this an IQ point, but I wanted to mention it because they talked about Sci-Fi Channel is going to have a giant bug movie marathon. And so I went to vulture.com and did a quick look at giant bug movies, or at least movies about bugs. Giant movies about bugs? I don't know. Popular bug movies nonetheless. And the top 5 that came up, and this one keeps coming up over and over again. I think it's what made me want to do this, is Them from 1954, which is about ants that get giganticized due to radiation and nuclear testing. And they decide that they also like human flesh. So that's a really popular horror movie from 1954 that's kind of stuck around, black and white, giant ants eating people. The second one, Vulture said, was Mothra from 1961. This is the insect goddess who fights kaiju. It's Godzilla movies. Phase 4 was the third one, 1974. And this one is about ants who have gained sentience from cosmic radiation and start kind of terrorizing town. So they aren't technically gigantic, but they are thoughtful and they work against humans. Then the movie 1985, and again, not gigantic insects, but an insect movie nonetheless, Phenomena, starring Jennifer Connelly when she was like a kid, and she has psychic connections to insects and starts using them to solve murders. I've seen parts of this, but never this straight through. In the fifth movie, and I would say this is a giant insect, 1986 version of The Fly, where Jeff Goldblum becomes a fly. And this isn't the only version of The Fly, but arguably it's a Cronenberg movie, so it's probably the most grotesque. So if you're looking for like a horror movie, giant bugs and something gross where skin's falling off, that's the one. I've also read plenty of stuff saying that it's a allegory for the AIDS epidemic of the late 80s. So there's some social commentary in it as well. But the other thing I wanted to say, because it wasn't on the list, but for I don't know, 30 years, I always thought Them was a movie called Quartermass in the Pit from 1967, which is about a spaceship being found underneath London. And inside the spaceship, there are alien insectoids that look like giant ants. And they're all kind of like asleep in their spaceship, but they're like becoming aware, and they use psychic abilities to take over humanity and kill humans and make humans do dumb stuff. But also arguably, like after watching that and then watching Stephen King's Tommyknockers, like there seemed to be some pretty strong connections, except instead of humanoid aliens, these look like kind of like giant termites or ants. But for the longest time, I thought Them was the same movie as this, and then like today, I'm like, holy shit, those are not the same movie. So that was that changed part of my life. So yeah, maybe not a IQ point, but I'll let you decide. I think that's worth talking about. That's probably what the sci-fi movie was showing, or marathon. Definitely Them was on there. So those were the top 5 movies. Probably at least 2 of them were on the Sci-Fi Channel's marathon.
Probably. Well, now they're all coming up the stairwell, all holding the ring. And Sheldon claims that he has the most patience, as he once called Hewlett Packard and was on hold for 2.5 hours just to complain about the customer service. Well, Leonard claps back and he says that he watched all 5 seasons of Sex and the City with Penny. And then Raj has to break the news to him that there are actually 6 seasons. He's like, oh, crap.
He's excited about it too, though. He's like, it was great.
Yeah, Raj loves it. He loves Sex in the City. Well, they make it to the door of the apartment, and Leonard drops his keys, and in unison they plie, and then they releve. And then Penny comes up and asks, what you doing? And then Leonard has to explain everything. And she's like, you know what? It's all good. You're my boyfriend. Whatever thing you love, I'm cool with. But just FYI, this is a bag from Victoria's Secret. And then the smartest person there, Leonard, leaves.
Because I'm out. It's a simple choice.
Yep.
Out.
Well, now we jump ahead to the guys in the apartment, and Howard is on the phone with his mom. And he's telling her that he has to work late. But Raj is yelling into the phone that they're actually going to the strip club.
He says some mean stuff here. Yeah. I love it.
Well, Howard quickly gets off the phone, and Raj tries to continue to psych him out by talking about his mom's boobies. And then Sheldon, being kind of dumb, starts gloating that they're going to tire each other out. So obviously, they retarget him and his mom. But he's good with that, since he's very aware of who his mother is. He says, go ahead. I have no illusions about my mother. She is kind, loving, religiously fanatical right-wing Texan with a slightly out-of-scale head and a mild Dr. Pepper addiction. Anything you like to add? So then they have to take the low blow, and they have to go after his Mima, that she probably enjoys sex.
Not only did she have sex to have your mom, but she probably liked it.
Well, Sheldon, to distract them, he tries to send them subliminal messages of flowing water. He says waterfalls, crashing waves, babbling brooks, dripping faucets, leaky gutter, and peeing. I like how his final subliminal message is not so subliminal. And it worked on Sheldon because now he has to pee. And it's a bad day for Howard to wear suede shoes. And now
so I'll get up to go to the bathroom together.
And now some time has passed, and they're all on the couch asleep. And Raj lets go of the ring to cuddle Howard. And Sheldon awakens, victorious. He races to the bathroom to clean it. He's gonna make it clean and make it pretty. His own love is precious. And then he looks into the mirror and he is turned into Gollum. And he screams himself awake. And then they all wake up and the ring is gone. Leonard took it upon himself to ship it back. Howard yells at him that he quit and he has no right. But Leonard explains that they are all asleep, and when he came in, the ring was on the floor. He's very logical that there's not going to be a winner in this game. There's only going to be a selfish, petty person with a ring and 3 people who used to be his best friend. And if that's what they want, go ahead. He wants nothing to do with it. But he is not cleaning up that mess in the bathroom.
Where they all went together.
Yeah. And then we go to his room, and then he opens up his secret chest under his bed, and he has the ring. That sneaky, that tricksy little hobbit.
My precious.
Well, now we're at the ending, and Leonard and Penny are asleep in his room, and Sheldon is over them, and he uses his claw extender to pull up the sheet, and he sees the ring. He knew it. And then Leonard wakes up, and they fight. And then Penny just leaves and says that she has to go back to dating dumb guys from the gym. The end.
The end.
It's a little sad that we don't really get to find a resolution to what happened with the ring.
Yeah, I feel kind of like Leonard fucked them over.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's a smart way to do it, but I stay with Raj that they should have sold it, split it up, or done something really fun with the money.
Yeah. Like, Peter Jackson has millions, if not billions of dollars. He does not need that ring.
Yeah, he probably doesn't even remember it exists, although he's probably sitting like in his mansion somewhere. He's like, I wish I had that ring back. It's the only thing I want in life.
If anything, he probably just went to like the original creator or that company and said, hey, make me a new one. But you know what? I want it diamond crusted.
And then he went up to Elijah Wood and he's like, I need you to spit on this.
Lick right here.
Like right on where it says one ring to rule them all. Yeah, that's right.
And then I'm going to get Andy Serkis to lick the rest.
Now this is the one ring.
Well, now we have the vanity card, which is a long one.
Yep. God damn.
Chuck Lorre's production number 280. You know you're getting old when you throw your back out on the toilet. You shave your ears. Your second wife calls your first wife ma'am. You're genuinely excited when your prescriptions arrive in the mail. You read the obits in the newspaper to check out the ages of the dead people. You read a newspaper. You're bummed out that the smoking hot chick from Body Heat now looks like William Shatner in drag. You say bummed out. Women your age have real breasts and artificial hips. Masturbation leaves you winded. You try to amuse the kid hooking up your Blu-ray player by telling him about Betamax. You pee in Morse codes, dots and dashes, and have to look down to see when you're done. Your car radio is set to classic rock, so you have something to switch to during NPR pledge drives. Your doctor says things like, that's normal for a man your age, and consider yourself lucky. Beneath your chin is what appears to be a neck skin hammock. Beneath your penis is what appears to be 2 ping pong balls hanging from a flesh-colored bolo tie. You choose your new car because it offers a great lumbar support and convenient cup holders. Watching The Who perform at the Super Bowl made you inconsolably sad. You wonder if the orgasm you're about to have will actually end your life. Okay, that one's a good one. Your doctor tells you a new medication will reduce the amount of semen in your body, and your only response is, so what? Your car radio is set to classic rock, so you have something to do. Oh, wait, I already did that one. And that's the vanity card. Sounds like somebody was having a little bit of an existential crisis.
Masturbation leaves you winded to this orgasm might kill me.
Damn, Chuck, what you going through?
That escalated.
Yeah.
Although I remember when The Who performed at the Super Bowl, and I feel like that was the last concert I really enjoyed. Although I don't watch the Super Bowl much. I just don't really like the pop singers that they've been bringing on.
Well, it also overshadows your birthday, too, so you don't really care about it.
Yeah,
you're almost boycotting
it. It's my birthday, Super Bowl.
Yeah, how dare you, NFL?
How dare you?
Well, all right, let's count some points.
Man, I only had one this episode, and it went to Rosh, so I am at 90, not like Sheldon, 94 like Sheldon.
Well, you're still a Shelley.
Still Shelley.
And we actually ended up with 7 IQ points.
Nice.
Yeah, it was actually.
And thank you, Michelle, for helping us out.
Yeah, I think originally I only found like 2 myself. So
really?
like plus yours and then Michelle's. It's like, wow, we added up to 7. So this is a very jam-packed episode.
Together we will be smart.
Yeah. With our powers combined. Well, any other things to add? Any other Lord of the Rings things?
I think that's it for this time.
Yeah, I think we did it. So thank you again for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. Email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com, and we will see you next time when we talk Season 3, Episode 18, The Pants Alternative.
See you later.
Bye. This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required. Our intro and outro music is by Alex Grohl. Thanks for listening. Hotcakes pterodactyl.